Good evening, everyone. Sorry for the delay. I'm going to call to order the November 4th, 2020 Plan Commission. If we could all stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Margaret, roll call, please.
Margaret's not with us tonight, so
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Correct, you're doing roll call?
Yep.
Okay.
Mr. Burleson?
Here.
Ms. Cardona has indicated that she's absent. Mr. Gill?
Here.
Mr. Gillette?
Here.
Ms. Little?
Here.
Ms. Woland?
Here.
And Mr. Kennedy?
Here?
Craig Phillips, Town Manager, is present. Ken Kraus?
Here.
Adam Decker?
Here.
And Paul Panzik.
Here.
Okay, you have
We have
members present, which constitutes a quorum.
a quorum. Very good, thank you. Item number 4, we have minutes. If I can get a motion to defer. Minutes have not been produced, and so if I can get a motion to defer these minutes, that'd be great.
I'll make a motion to defer.
I got a motion by Mike. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Roll call, Craig?
It was Burleson.
Yes.
Second, okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Okay. All right, Mr. Burleson?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Ms. Little?
Yes.
Ms. Woland?
Yes.
And Mr. Kennedy.
Yes, motion to defer passes. Next on the agenda, public hearings. We have a public hearing for the preserves at Rosewood Estates. Petitioner is Schilling Development. Craig, everything in order for the public?
I found this out just prior to the meeting and emailed our attorney, Mr. Decker. It appears that we are missing one of the mailings, one of the proofs of mailing slips for this public hearing. And I don't know, Mr. Decker, if you received that email on time or not, but I'm looking for guidance from you on how we proceed as a result of that.
Mr. Phillips, when you say proof of mailing, are you referring to the certified mail receipt?
Receipt,
That was,
certified mail receipt, correct.
okay, now are we talking about the green card return receipt?
No, we're talking about the original receipt of mailing.
Receipt of delivery of the mail to the post office?
Correct. We're missing both in this case.
Okay, so,
On
If-
one of them.
if not all of the required interested parties received notice, then pursuant to the Plan Commission rules, all parties have not received notice and therefore the hearing cannot proceed.
So your recommendation is to, that, based on our rules, not to have the public hearing today? Or at least until
We
we
can defer
receive,
it, correct?
we could defer it until we receive all proof of mailing.
Could we request if that party happens to be here?
We could ask her that, correct?
Adam, is that appropriate? I would imagine that would be notification of, or at least they got their
If they
chance
happen
for
to
a
be here.
hearing, yeah. Adam, is that appropriate? If,
I'm sorry, is the question, can the Plan Commission defer the hearing?
no. The question is, if the mailing that we did not get proof was sent, or received, if that person or people are in the room today, would that qualify as proof that they received their mailing?
I don't think there's been any evidence to indicate that there was a mailing. having them simply here in the audience doesn't mean they received the notice.
Okay,
So I'm, again,
this
the
is a
rules
first, this is a
pretty
first
clearly
reading.
require that personal notice must be given, and that there has to be some evidence that that notice has been given.
Well, just,
And that's normally required to be received 5 business days before the hearing date.
yeah, so it appears that one of the certified letters may have been missed on a mailing. However, we did the 2 publications in the newspaper, we did the sign on the site. So it's possible that the interested party was notified by one of those means and could be here tonight. I'm just throwing that out there.
I'll bring it back to the board. You heard comments by the petitioner, you've heard comments by attorney. In my time on this board, this is the first time this has occurred. I always like to err on the side of what our attorney has recommended. And so with that, I'll just, my initial response is we defer it until we get proof of notice. And so we just we've set a bar, and let's just keep it at that, but that's my personal opinion. So I will entertain discussion from the board regarding the public hearing at Rosewood Estates.
I have to agree with you. If we don't have the necessary documents, we need to defer. I mean, that's the rule. That's the way the law states. So we need to defer it, in my opinion.
And Mr.
Thank you.
Kennedy, if I may.
Yep.
It's also been my experience over the past 20-plus years that if anything like this happens, and this has happened in my career, that basically the petitioner is then required to renotice in order to, and then provide proof of the proper notice with renotice.
Is that-
Mr. Decker, would you agree?
I think that would certainly eliminate any doubt about whether the petitioner has complied with the notice requirements of the Plan Commission rules and state law.
All right.
So just so I'm clear, renotice everything, the
Yeah.
paper and all the adjoining property
Yeah,
owners.
because the difficulty is just noticing one additional party. It's awkward because you're not just noticing one party. You have to notice everybody for a proper public hearing.
All right.
Same date.
Exactly.
So if I can get I'm jumping the gun.
It's rare, but it does happen, and that's how it's been handled in cases where I've seen this before.
Based on that recommendation and the advice of our attorney, I'll seek a motion to defer. We would defer to our next regularly scheduled one in December.
Correct. Which I believe is the second, if I'm not mistaken.
I make a motion to defer the preserve at Rosewood Estates to our December 2nd meeting for them to bring necessary documentation.
I have a motion to defer. Is there a second?
I'm sorry, so yeah, I just wanted to double check that date.
Yeah, it is the
It is.
second.
It is the second,
Yep.
I thought so, okay. And I'm sorry, who made the
The motion
motions?
was by Nancy.
Okay.
Yes.
And was there a second?
I have not heard of.
Sorry.
I will
Okay.
second.
Oh, I got a second by Donna. Questions or comments from the board? Craig, roll call?
Mr. Burleson,
Yes.
Mr. Gill,
Yes.
Mr. Gillette,
Yes.
Ms. Little,
Yes.
Ms. Welland,
Yes.
and Mr. Kennedy.
Yes, motion to defer to December 2nd. And then, Mrs. Lager, you understand notification, we would have to redo it again.
I got it. Thank you.
All right. Next on the agenda is a public hearing for Continental Unit 2. And to all the people, I apologize for the coming out. Hopefully we'll see you on December 2nd. Public hearing, Continental Unit 2, petitioner Hickory Terrace. Is everything in order for that public hearing?
Everything is in order for this public hearing.
All right. And I will open it up to Jack. Petitioner, I'll open it
So,
up to you.
Yep, thank you. Jack Slager with Schilling Development representing Hickory Terrace. On the Continental Phase 2, we are replatting 3 of the lots. You'll see them there. I think it's 32, 33, and 34. And just moving the lot line back about 80 feet to make these 3 lots larger. Yeah, basically, there was an unused, it turned out to be a non-wooded area, unused behind these lots, and so we want to extend the lot lines back to make the lots bigger. That's what it comes down to.
This was an R1C PUD? Am I correct, Paul?
RC1, yes.
RC1 PUD? Okay,
All of the lots exceeded 20,000, as I
Yeah.
recall.
that was pretty bad. All right, just for the board, I have a letter here from Ken Kraus. I will read it for the record. We have reviewed the plat for the reference project and have the following comments. 1, this subdivision project includes expanding lot 32, 33, 34, and Continental Unit 2 subdivision, adding a total of 1.756 acres to the 3 lots. We have reviewed the plat and find it to be satisfactory. However, a 25-foot conservation easement has been eliminated from the original rear property line and is not planned to be replaced. The development fee for this project is $1,500, as there are no associated public infrastructure improvements and is to be paid prior to the Plan Commission President and Secretary signing the secondary plat. All the public improvements have been installed as part of the existing the Continental Unit 2 subdivision, so no letter of credit or surety bond is required.
Yeah, and if I can respond to 2 of those things, the fee we did pay this afternoon, we just got the letter this afternoon, but we did drop off that check. And the conservation easement, as it turned out, many of the lots along that stretch do have a stretch of trees along the back that we're attempting to preserve or conserve. But these 3 lots actually had no trees, and so the conservation easement shouldn't have been there in the first place. So we eliminated it as we pushed the lot line back, and so there's nothing there to
So
protect.
it doesn't affect,
It doesn't.
okay.
Like a square.
That was one of the questions I had, is does it affect that at all? And it appears not to.
No.
Okay. Very good. Any questions or comments to the petition for Jack? If not, I'll open it up for public comment. Craig, did we receive anything via email, mail, any correspondence that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay. All right, at this time, I will open up to the public for any comments. Going once, anyone from the public? Going twice? Public hearing is now closed. Bring it back up to the board. Any other questions or comments for Jack? If not, I will entertain a motion for primary plat for Continental 2 first subdivision, with the understanding that since this is a residential, after this approving the primary plat, if it is approved, I think you would seek for us to do a secondary plat at this time.
Yes, that was going to be my request, and due to the simplicity of the project, if we could request primary and secondary on the same night, we would.
Which is a normal process that we have done in the past for residential lots in this situation. So any questions or comments for Jack? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Want to make a motion for approval for primary plat of Hickory Terrace, Unit 2.
I got approval for primary plat of the Continental Unit 2. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
I got a second from Mike. Questions or comments from the board? If not, Craig, roll call, please.
Mr. Burleson?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Ms. Little?
Yes.
Ms. Woland?
Yes,
And Mr. Kennedy?
Yes, motion to approve primary plat has been approved. If the pleasure of the board is to approve secondary plat, I will entertain that motion as well.
Like to make a motion to approve secondary plat for Continental Unit 2.
I have a motion. Is there a second for secondary plat?
I'll second it.
Mike has seconded. Questions or comments from the board? If not, roll call, please.
Mr. Burleson?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Ms. Little?
Yes.
Ms. Wolin?
Yes,
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes. Secondary plat approved.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. All right, next on the agenda, we have Mill Creek Unit 6. Altoff Home is seeking secondary plat approval for final phase. I will read Ken Krause's letter. We have reviewed the secondary plat for the reference project. Let me make sure, Mill Creek Phase 6. And have the following comments. The subdivision project includes 23 single-family lots, 23 duplex lots, 3 lots, and associated facilities on 24.942 acres. We have reviewed the plat and find it to be satisfactory. The development fee for this project is $18,825.02. Most of the public improvements have been installed. A letter of credit should be submitted to the town in the amount of $52,030 to ensure the remaining improvements will be installed, or if a surety bond or other method of ensuing the completion of this work is submitted, it should be in the amount of $61,490. And I
evening,
apologize, I jumped the gun.
Oh, that's
If you
all
could
right.
introduce yourself to the board, please.
Cameron Wignall with Old Toff Homes. Mill Creek Phase 6, we are requesting secondary plat approval. All development fees have been paid, I believe as of today. I do not have Mylars or bonds for this yet, but they will be submitted as soon as we have them.
So what do we have to wait till we receive those to sign? Would that be a contingency of the secondary plat?
I would think,
For
if
the
they don't
sig-
have all the improvements,
Yeah.
you have to bond for them.
Yeah, for this, prior to our signature, correct.
Okay. So are you doing a letter, did you say you're doing a letter of credit or a bond?
I believe it's a letter of credit.
Letter of credit, okay. So we would have to make 2 motions, one to approve the secondary plat, and then a motion for the town council to accept a bond or letter of credit in the amount of $52.30, or $52,000. $30, $52,030. Any questions or comments? Ken, everything else looked good from your letter?
Yeah, everything else was just fine.
Was that
What's the amount? 52? what?
$52,030, $52,000,
$52,030.
$30. I cannot get that one out.
I make a motion that we approve secondary plat approval for Mill Creek Unit 6. And with that, we receive a letter of credit and the
Just do
value-
one at
One
a,
at a
just
time,
do the
yeah.
secondary, and then we'll make a recommendation for the council to accept a bond.
Okay.
So I got a motion to approve secondary plat from John. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second by Bob. Questions or comments? Roll call, Craig?
Mr. Burleson?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Ms. Little?
Yes.
Ms. Wolin?
yes,
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes. Motion for secondary plat approved. Now I need a motion to make a favorable recommendation to the town to accept a bond in the amount of $52,000,
Letter credit.
letter of credit for $52,030.
All right, let's see if I can do it the first time. I
Yeah.
make a motion that we make a favorable recommendation to the town council to accept a letter of credit in the amount of $52,030 from Altoff Homes for Mill Creek Unit 6.
I got a motion to, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Bob. Questions or comments? If not, Craig, roll call, please.
Mr. Burleson?
Yes.
Mr. Gill,
Yes.
Mr. Gillette,
Yes.
Ms. Little,
Yes.
Ms. Woland,
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy.
Yes, motion approved. Next on the agenda, Altoff Homes again. Summerlin Estates Unit 2 is seeking secondary plat approval.
Yes, good evening again. Cameron Wignall with Old Tough Homes. Summerlin Estates Phase 2, 21 single-family R1 lots. We are requesting secondary plat approval. All development fees have been paid. Again, we do not have Mylars or a bond in hand, but they will be submitted as soon as we have them.
And understanding we will have to receive that before we sign.
Correct.
All right. Here's a letter from Ken. The subdivision project includes 20 R1 single-family lots, 1 outlot, and associated facilities on 15 acres, 15.272 acres. We have reviewed the plat and find it to be satisfactory. The development fee for this project is $13,249.15. Some of the public improvements have not been installed. A letter of credit should be submitted to the town in the amount of $262,171.38. I'll repeat that. It's going to be a letter of credit to the town. The letter of credit should be in the amount of $262,171.38 to ensure the remaining improvements will be installed. Or if a surety bond or other method of ensuring the completion of this work is submitted, it should be in the amount of $309,838.62. Ken, everything else look good?
Yes, everything else looks great.
Okay. Then I will seek a motion for secondary plat approval of Summerlin Estates.
Make a motion, we accept the secondary plat approval for Summerlin Estates Unit 2 from Altoff Homes.
I have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second from Bob. Questions or comments from the board? Discussion? If not, roll call, Craig?
Mr. Burleson,
Yes.
Mr. Gill,
Yes.
Mr. Gillette,
Yes.
Ms. Little,
Yes.
Ms. Woland,
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy.
Yes. Motion to approve. Now I will need a motion, favorable recommendation to the town council to accept a letter of credit in the amount of $262,171.38.
I'd
What-
like to make a motion to recommend to the town, accept a letter of credit on Summerlin Estates for $262,171.38.
I have a motion to accept a letter of credit. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion from the board? Craig, roll call, please.
Mr. Burleson,
Yes.
Mr. Gill,
Yes.
Mr. Gillette,
Yes.
Ms. Little,
Yes.
Ms. Woland,
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy.
Yes. Motion passes. Chairman, thank you very much, sir. Next on the agenda, Greystone Unit 3, continued discussion regarding the petitioner's request.
All right, so I have the drawing that you sent me this afternoon, correct?
Do they have both of those items, okay.
And I have it on the screen.
Okay, excellent.
So, yep.
Thank you. So good evening, Jack Slager again with Schilling Development, representing CWS Holdings, the developer of Greystone. And we've been in here the last several months discussing Greystone Unit 3, which is on the west side of Calumet Avenue, south of the current Greystone development and just north of the Heritage Christian School. This is a 40-acre farm that we're interested in continuing on with the Greystone development. After numerous discussions over the last couple months, we've kind of veered into a more of a single-family development with requesting 80 by 140 lots. And I appreciate the conversation we had at the last study session. Was a good brainstorming session. We came up with some concepts to allow the 80 by 140 lots by increasing the standards and the architectural requirements for these lots. And we went back and sat down and discussed what we could do on this site to elevate both the architecture and the quality of the construction on these lots. And I've put before you a sample summary of restrictive covenants for this unit, being Unit 3. The first, and I think you have that there, the little sheet of restrictive covenants. So the first one that we talked about last time was no vinyl siding. We would also agree to the sizes that follow your R2 requirements in the town, which would be a ranch 1,900, story and a half 2,250, and a two-story 2,400 minimum square feet. We've also decided to require a 3-car attached garage minimum. That adds about $20,000 to the price of the home versus a standard 2-car garage. So we are going to require a 3-car garage on all of these lots. Some of our usual requirements, 25% brick or stone front, roof pitch minimum 612, no bi-levels, tri-levels, quad levels. Again, we have a Master Homeowners Association that maintains the entrances and the berms. All the homes will require a post light. All the homes require a common mailbox system. Any fencing would have to be wrought iron, open style fencing, or aluminum fencing. No solid wood or solid PVC fencing is allowed. Only in-ground pools are allowed. No vinyl windows. Again, that elevates the quality of the construction. It's probably not something that you'd notice if you were driving by, but just elevating both the value and the quality of the construction. And then some heavier landscaping requirements, irrigation required on all the lots, parkway trees, of course, and some additional trees and bushes. And then one of the things that I wanted to point out, and this sheet is something that we give out to any builder or any individual that's interested in buying a lot from us. We spell out that architectural approval will be required for any home that's built on any lot in any of our developments, but especially here, architectural approval required for all elevations. So we look at, when we get a set of plans in, we look at all 4 sides of the house, not just the front, but the sides, the back, make sure there's windows, make sure it's appealing, and we require glass in the garage doors, special architectural details, and we spell out a reasonable minimum architectural detail will be required to help ensure home values for all homeowners and will be reviewed before permits may be applied for. So every home that comes in has to go through our architectural review, and we do a written review of that, and then we pass it on to the building department before they grant a permit. So those are some of the things that we would include with our PUD ordinance, which will be written for this development. We originally requested an R3 PUD. We now, after discussion with you at the last meeting, we will be requesting an R2 PUD, which would allow us to do the 80 by 140 lots with these parameters. And again, the PUD ordinance will be written. It will encompass this set of restrictive covenants. So yeah, with that being said, if there's any questions, any specific questions on the project, I'll answer them.
Jack, are you seeking our approval for this layout?
Well, we've taken it up a notch since the last meeting. So the last meeting was a little bit of a sketch, and then we sent, since the last meeting, it appeared that we were headed in the right direction. We sent it to the engineers and we said, go ahead and make sure it works. So this has come back literally just today. This would not necessarily be the final, but I think this is where it's going to go. So tonight we're just seeking a favorable recommendation to the town council for the R2 PUD rezone. We would still have to come back before the plan commission for primary plat, but it would be our intention to stick with this plan, yes.
I guess my initial concern is the initial public hearing was for an R3 PUD.
Correct.
And this is an R2 PUD. Now, I understand it's less dense.
Yes.
However, I guess I'm a little concerned that you had a public hearing for something that potentially is not what we're looking to approve. And I'm going to take the temperature of the board. I could tell you, I don't know what rules, laws, but it's a precedent I'm not familiar with, where we went in with a public hearing to the public at R3, understanding it's less dense, but it's something different we're approving, and if we should deny his initial application of an R3, then he would have to come back with another public hearing at an R2.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, try to bring a little bit of information forward, and then I'm going to ask Adam to review what I'm about to say. So there's actually no such thing as an R3 PUD. In the end, a PUD is a custom layout that you have the control to specify exactly what is and is not possible to do. So lot size, PUD throws everything on the table, where normally, normal rezone would, okay, it's R1, or it's R2, or it's C2, or whatever it is. It's very structured. You advertise it's gonna be an R1, and it's either that or nothing, right? So that's how normal rezoning goes. You advertise, you say, this is what it's going to be. You thumbs up, thumbs down it. We thumbs up, thumbs down it, you're done. PUD is an entirely separate track where, you know, it could be anything. So it could go on for months. It could go back and forth. The lot sizes can change. You might put additional requirements like 25% stone on the front. Normally, we couldn't do that with rezone. So, and along with that, you need to specify with your findings of fact. You would attach this. If this, like, let's say you wanted to go with this, you would attach this. And it's really important too, the site plan with specifications, at least a minimum specification for lot size and a count on the number of lots, some sort of a threshold. You'd want to specify all those things. But essentially what I'm saying is it's entirely customizable. So, you know, when the petitioner applied for this, they put R3 PUD, but in essence, it's a residential PUD. Because R3 PUD doesn't even exist. It's just a PUD. So, but I'll let Adam Decker state his opinion on that.
So the zoning ordinance does categorize different levels of the PUD for residential districts. And I don't disagree with what Paul suggested about the PUD residential concept generally. The zoning ordinance basically provides that the owner applies to the Plan Commission with the PUD development plan. And when that plan is presented to the Plan Commission, the Plan Commission is to review it and make recommendations on that plan, and provide that feedback to the owner and developer. The zoning ordinance also requires thereafter that it hold a public hearing on the proposed change of zoning and the PUD development plan. So the notice for that hearing, and I believe that hearing was held, was that back in September? I'm not certain. Perhaps even earlier than that. But that notice did indicate, I believe, that the proposed change was for a
R3.
R2, I'm sorry, an R3 PUD as opposed to the R2 PUD. So I believe that because this process involves review by the Plan Commission and then ultimately after the hearing, so the hearing's already been held, the Plan Commission is charged with the responsibility of approving the proposal, approving it with modifications, or disapproving the planned unit development plan and the proposed change in zone. So you know, again, it's really what the Plan Commission, if the Plan Commission is not satisfied with the PUD development plan as it's been presented, then it certainly has the right to defer the matter or, you know, to take additional consideration of that perhaps at future meetings and provide additional feedback to the developer. So I think the plan, it's really, I think the Plan Commission has, it can either defer the matter, it can act on the proposal as it's been received by the town. It's really what the Plan Commission desires to do at this point.
So even though the zoning has changed from an R3 to an R2, we can still, so what happens if he would have came in with an R1 PUD and we made it more dense to an R3? So that would have been within our right as a Plan Commission to make that recommendation, even though the public heard it as an R1?
Well, so I don't like to get into hypothetical situations, but Mr. Chairman, in your hypothetical, you've suggested going from, I guess, a less dense proposal or original proposal to a more dense.
Yes, I mean, I understand, and Adam, I just, the public heard it as an R3. They were hurt, and I understand it's an R2. I understand it is less dense. So based on all my years on this, the public would be more in favor of a less dense development. However, that's not what was presented at the public hearing. And I'm just, whether it's within our right, I don't know if it's the right thing to do, because it's not what was presented at the time of the public hearing. And that's what I understand what Paul's saying, but I just don't want to get into this is where we're having public hearings no matter what the zoning is, and then the public makes comments, and we then have the authority to change it, or not have the authority, we can make a recommendation, that council has the authority. I just don't know what type of transparency.
And that's really supposed to take place initially before the hearing. And so I think that currently as written, the zoning ordinance contemplates that interaction and feedback would occur before the hearing is held, with the idea that that feedback would give some direction to the developer to come back with a plan that it wants to move forward with its hearing on. I know in this case, a lot of this feedback has occurred after that public hearing. So I think it's really in the Plan Commission's discretion at this point to, again, consider what's been presented. I think the hearing was held, which I believe satisfies the ordinance. But if the Plan Commission has concerns that the plan, unit development plan has changed substantially, I think it could require that there be a hearing held on that revised plan.
I will say, according to my notes here, the public hearing was conducted on September 2nd. And my recollection was there was limited to no remonstrators at that meeting. I guess we could go back and check the minutes, but the way it was worded in the agenda from that meeting was that petitioner will be seeking to rezone 40 acres on the west side of Calumet Avenue and south of Greystone Unit 2 from open space to PUD. And I'm just reading off the town's agenda, but it actually didn't specify in there that it was R3 or R2.
No, I'm not doubting that the public hearing did occur. I'll take the temperature of the board. If anyone concurs and wants to make, I would say we would either make, if this is the plan they want to go with an R2, if we want to proceed with it, then no one make a motion to deny the R3, or not this proposal, but the R3 that has currently had the public hearing. If we get no motion, then I would assume the board is okay with moving forward with this R2 PUD, and then we'll take the next steps on moving forward on reviewing this updated proposal. So if there is,
Question.
yes.
And I'm just a little bit confused, and maybe you guys can help me out here a little bit, but the information that Jack provided matches up with an RC2, if I'm not mistaken.
No, I think the initial one was an R3.
Well, no, I'm talking about the current information he's providing.
Oh, yes.
The 1,900 square feet, 2020, 2250 and 2,400, that matches up with an RC2.
Yeah, our zoning ordinance, it's under RC2, but R2 is just kind of like before it. But that's our standards for R1 and R2. That's our only standards we have is 19, 2250, and 2400.
So it's R2 and RC2 are the same.
Yeah, and R1's the same for as far as square footage. The only difference with R1 is the 10-foot side yards.
So-
Otherwise, all of our ordinance in the zoning ordinance.
Okay, because then there's an RC2 PUD, and I just want to make sure that's
There's-
not what's being requested here.
Yeah, all of our documentation there, like the same thing when you see the lot coverages and stuff, it falls, if you read it in order, it falls under the RC2 heading, but we've just historically applied it to the whole gamut of whether it's R2, RC2, or RC2 PUD.
It's been stated many times to me, and again, it's just PUD, and we're gonna have to clean up our zoning ordinance, because it's just confusing. A PUD is a PUD, and so they try to pin it with an R1 or an R2 and R3 to sort of tell you it's kinda like this, or that's the underlying specs, like the side yard, things like that. And then we specify how many things are not meeting the underlying specs. So that's what's so unusual about PUD. It's really apples and oranges. Like John was mentioning, if you advertised R1 and then they changed it to R2, you'd have to have a whole new public hearing. With PUD, the thing kind of changes as you're back and forth with
That's
it.
how I always interpret it. It's kind of, you mold it into shape.
You mold it into shape into whatever you want it to be. So we'll probably strike all that
So even-
language from the zoning ordinance and just put residential PUD for that purpose, just because it will clear up the confusion. This same conversation has been had so many times at plan commission meetings
I
over
just
the
wondered,
years.
because I'm looking at the words on the screen, RC2 PUD a district.
Right.
And I just want to make sure that's not what's being requested here.
Well, that could be a conservancy, isn't RC?
RC2, yeah, RC2, the point is to
Conserve a
conserve
certain
some
amount
green
of
space, but
open space.
the R2 PUD specification, which again doesn't exist in the book, but they've used it as a descriptor, has been used many times through town, Walden Clearing, East Gates. So it doesn't exist in the zoning ordinance, but PUD does, and that it covers it. So again, this is language that needs to be cleared up to.
If you go up to R1, it shows the R1 stuff, and then it says RC1, and that's where you'll find the 1900, 2250, 2400. So it's just like the way the headings are laid out in the book, that all of the details of
So the
lot use-
underlying zoning district is, so what are we, is there any request to deviate from anything with the underlying zoning district in this
Yeah.
case?
So essentially, it's an R2 underlying,
Right.
so he'd be deviating from lot width, depth, and
Size.
total square foot, but they'd be meeting all the, and I'm only repeating what I heard last month, just for clarification, Craig.
Okay, so we're going from 100 to 80, and I just want to be clear, because
Yeah, that would be whatever you guys specify, I'm just
before we
talking
send
about
this to
what,
the council, we're going to need to send an ordinance, and I just
Oh,
want to
yeah.
be clear, because those of us who need to be involved in writing the ordinance, I just want to understand for sure what, you know.
well, let's just back off for a second. It's the plan commission's discretion, what they do or don't like about this, how they want to mold it, but just, all I'm trying to express, I'm not trying to tell you to make any decision either way, but it's a PUD, so you kind of have creative freedom, and you've had it for a few months, and you see where you've molded this project into something more that you thought was proper for this area. So I'm not going to tell you what it should or shouldn't be or how to do it. I just want to make sure you understand that residential PUD is residential PUD, and the zoning ordinance doesn't capture every facet of that.
Okay.
We started out 3 months ago with 144 units on this parcel and have morphed it in a very similar design to this, but have basically morphed the lot lines around to where it stands now with 102 units.
Jack, do you have an architectural rendering of some of the houses, with a 3-car garage? Why I ask that, I'm afraid three-car garage, it's a nice, thing to have,
Yeah,
but I'm afraid it's gonna be all garage when you look at it from the street.
yeah.
On
That's
an
a great
80-foot
point.
wide lot.
Yeah, we discussed that at length, and I would say the majority of the homes in Preserve are three-car garages. One of the suggestions that we had was to go to 75 or 80% three-car garages, which would allow some to have two-car garages. But we thought it would be easier to just say three-car across the board. But I'm flexible on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is the third door an actual to fit a car in, or
Yeah,
like a small
when we say
compact
three-car
car?
garage, we want three
Three
doors,
cars,
two,
okay.
a double
Not like
door
a
and a single.
service door
Right,
or-
right.
Equipment, lawnmower door.
Right.
Okay.
All right, I'll just bring it back to the board. If we're comfortable moving forward, I won't hear, or there's no motion to deny the R3 and have them start over with an R2. If there's no motion, then we'll just proceed forward with this. Hearing none, okay. Just want to get the temperature of the board. Because Jack, I wasn't here on the study
Yeah,
session, so
no,
I'm playing catch up a little bit here, so
I realize that, no problem. One of the things that I didn't really talk about is the park, and I guess we're calling this a linear park. We heard a lot of discussion at the last meeting about bike paths and the town's, people in the town wanting more bike paths. And so we've got a pipeline that cuts between the last phase of Greystone and this phase, and we've kept the lots a good 50 to 100 feet off that pipeline and left some green space in there where we can continue the bike path system that we started. And this will be a really nice linear park. It leaves us some room to do some landscaping around the bike path, maybe create some hills and berms in there, some benches, things like that, and it's really going to be a nice feature.
So Jack, you're saying lot sizes, minimum width is 80 feet.
Correct.
Minimum length is 140.
140, correct.
How many lots do you have here?
102.
I'm just seeing this for the first time, so I'm going to hopefully ask you to provide us with more than just a conceptual on our next attempt, or unless the board wants to move forward tonight. I'd like to see square footage of all these lots.
Okay, I have that.
More than just a conceptual. Let's get so all the board members know the square footage of each lot, the minimum width, length, depth of these R2s. We have so just for the board's understanding, as we go through these PUDs, as Paul has mentioned, we have some we work with the developer to determine what since we are providing this PUD, so he has come back after your last study session with architectural, like your concern is as an three-car garage.
Right.
So at the next, can we see at least one? Do you want more than one? Do you want two? Maybe a ranch, one of each?
Yeah, maybe one of each.
One of each of what the exterior would like, so Bob's concern regarding, and these are our minimum standards for building sizes?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
across
that's-
the board.
that's
R1,
right, okay.
R2. That's the only standards we have.
Now, I try to get away with making decisions for the developer. He says no vinyl sidings. I guess another approach could be, do we want to determine what type? I would rather let the homeowner decide what type of material.
Right.
He's just saying what he's not using. Do we want to put in items he has to put in, which I always get concerned with, but that's a discussion we can have with Jack and his team, but you've heard what he's offered to do, so.
I did ask the engineers on the lot sizes, and I do have a plan that shows them all, but the 80 by 140 lot would be 11,200 square feet, so that's your starting point. No lot smaller than 11,200, and they range from that, from 11,200 square feet up to 20,800 square feet. I believe lot 2, 30, large pie-shaped lot is 20,800 square feet. So,
Yeah.
and everything in between, but generally 11,200 to 20,000 square feet on the lots.
So do you have lots wider than 80 feet, or are they all 80 feet?
They're pretty much all 80. As you get into the curves, sometimes they're wider at the front because we try to make them 80 in the middle. And then, of course, corner lots are all at least 95, so that you can fit the same size house on a corner with the corner setback. So, yeah, as a general rule, they're 80.
8-foot side yard. And then Jack, this lot on the, would be the northwest, that's not, it's hatched out. This one right here, I apologize. What's that? Is that just an outlot?
That's an old, you're looking at an old plan.
I passed out.
Sorry.
I passed out another.
Gotcha.
So,
What's the area south of the entranceway to
Yep.
Greystone to
That-
lot 270?
that lot was platted, I think it says 122 on there. That lot was platted with the previous phase of Greystone, and that is a professional office lot. I believe it's zone C1.
Okay.
But our intention on that is a professional office type building. We have had one inquiry on it, which was like a 24-hour fitness, which we think would fit really well in a neighborhood setting and along the bike path and at the stoplight and everything else. So that's the kind of business that we would like to attract for that corner.
And this meets all our pipeline protection, I would imagine, are those pipelines?
We are not getting close to the pipelines, but, and I know you've increased your pipeline protection or offset. This petition for this project actually came in on the old one, but we're keeping all the lots off the pipeline. They don't overlap onto the pipeline easements or anything like that, so.
Aren't you happy I'm not asking for connectivity to the south? I've learned that by now.
Yeah, I'm
Got it.
ready if you want to ask
I've
that.
learned that
but
one by now.
That's where the school is, I
The
believe.
school's
Yeah, I
there,
know.
yeah.
He kept on telling me, John, there's a school there. There's a school there.
We've got the stub to the west. That's the one piece of property that's in the town of St. John. Everything else around here is unincorporated county. So,
So Jack, these architectural restricted, is this similar to another community within St. John? Is this a standard, what you've done at other ones, or is this a little bit more?
so this is more restricted. We have a section of single-family in Greystone now, directly across Calumet Avenue from this. This is much more restrictive than that. Same-size lots, those lots in that section of Greystone are 80 by 140, but we do allow vinyl siding. And it was a PUD, and the square footage requirements are slightly lower. I believe they're 1,800, 2,000, and 2,200 on that section of Greystone. So this is fairly high. The no vinyl siding we do have in the preserve right now, and same square footage requirements as the preserve. We do not require a three-car garage in the preserve, but I would say 90% of the homes have them. So this is very similar in nature to what the preserve requires.
And the architectural review team is who? Is it,
Myself and the Shillings.
okay. And you say parkway and trees, is there minimum numbers type of trees?
Yeah, we spell that out. I believe it's every 30 feet. Corner lots have to have 2 on each side, and that's in the town code too.
I've never realized how many trucks hit trees that are in the parkway. I was like, everyone puts their trees in a parkway. Well, I've learned it, that the Public Works sometimes don't like trees in parkways, so. Anything, questions, comments for Jack?
I just have one question. When we're talking about park space, is there any plan or possibility to actually have park equipment in any of that space?
We talked about that at length. And originally, this site was, because of the product that was being built here, which is duplexes and cottage homes to the north, we always kind of planned a linear park along the pipeline with the path. We talked about, do we want a piece of equipment on this site? now that we're going to a more of a single-family model. I think it's not the ideal place to put a piece of equipment. We would probably be more open to benches and shelters and that type of thing. So we would look to possibly do that. Again, the bike path is connective. It goes up. We actually put the crosswalk in across Calumet Avenue. It's got the little button so you can get across, and then it continues on and goes over to Saddle Creek. When I have people ask about a park, I'm like, oh, there's one next door in Saddle Creek. You can follow the bike path and get over there. But, yeah, so I guess to answer your question, we do not see this park as having a piece of playground equipment.
Any more questions, comments from the board? Do we want additional, we would like, Jack, I believe, unless I misunderstood, we'd like additional time to review architectural renderings of a ranch, 1.5 and 2-story. I always call the Jason Williams rule. Jason Williams would always request on the plan commission that we would have lot numbers with square footage and dimensions. I mean, whether they're on the plat, just so that we can have a better understanding. Especially square footage is important, I believe, to this board, just so we have an understanding of what our minimums and maximums are. And then again, for the board, you see his architectural, if there's any other, Donna talked about park, well, that was discussed, but if there's any other things that, at least for him to consider between now and then, so he has been here several months, I appreciate his patience. But at the next meeting, we could make a determination.
For 102 lots, I'd like to see some park equipment if possible. I think it would be nice for the residents to have that amenity.
Or, maybe, this resistant equipment. I don't, there's elderly people, maybe
Yeah.
they want some exercise.
We talked about that, something along the path.
Along the path, the little,
I think we'd be open to that, for sure.
there's a number of different things that I've seen that maybe something like
But
that.
this is probably going to draw in a lot of families with children.
Right.
So-
Well, and the kids can get on that stuff too. But
Kids are my
maybe a
resistance.
combination of both.
Yeah.
Ideally.
Okay.
So Jack, we'll probably have you come back at the study session one more time. Well, I
Okay.
shouldn't say one more time.
Mr. Chairman, before you let him go, I'd like to make a comment.
Oh, absolutely. So you understand what we're looking for, the dimensions of the lots, square footage, renderings, maybe additional conversation regarding equipment.
Okay.
And then board, again, anything else we want to at least discuss, recommend? And then with that, Paul, comment or?
So a few things. John, I forgot you weren't here last month. So this development, this PUD, took a really sharp turn when it was presented that it could be single-family and the Plan Commission, and I'm just revisiting what happened. So the Plan Commission seemed to look favorably upon it to the point where Jack took it to the next level as far as engineering it out to bring it back to you. So, and the premise behind it was better than duplexes, slightly smaller lots, but in the effort of conserving property values, there would be stipulations placed on architectural features. So, kind of a creative way to maintain our property values, right? So it's a newer concept for our town. So the Plan Commission gave him some direction in that way, and so that's what you're seeing here is single family that R1 might not be compatible with what's next to it, but this is certainly an upgrade, I think, from what's around it. Probably the nicest development on either side of Calumet Avenue as far as density and that. So it definitely took a sharp turn. So you may want to go back and watch that meeting a little bit. And but I'd also like to chime in as a member of the town council, and this is going to come to me eventually. Jack, I would ask that your maybe go back to the drawing board and see if you could possibly carve out a small park area that the town could work with at a future time. And the reason I say this, I do understand that there's a lot of cottage homes, duplexes tailored towards grandparents, that kind of thing, right? But as Donna pointed out, you have 100 single-family homes coming in. You have both sides of Greystone. I'm going to use your crosswalk again. So grandma and grandpa's got the grandkids over, they'd be able to cross Calumet, and this area near the bike trail would be a perfect place for a small playground that grandma and grandpa could bring the kids to, that the single-family homes could use. And I understand real estate's expensive, but if there would be a way to somehow fit one between the pipeline and the backs of those yards, if there's a way to just maneuver it, and the town could possibly develop a small park there, and it would serve Greystone on both sides, really. So you don't need a Prairie West for this, but maybe just something. So.
Okay, we'll take a look at that, definitely.
And I'd like to say one more thing, both for Jack and the Plan Commission. So we're trying to ensure we follow our PUD specifications properly, including the approval process and creating an ordinance. So this is different than normal zoning. Usually you would just rezone it, send it to the town council, they'd approve it or not, then we'd start all over with platting. So with PUD, I want everyone to be aware that all that platting happens now. You need to have a detailed drawing that's substantially close to what it's going to end up being, and that needs to be attached to the ordinance that the council would approve. So we would actually know what we're getting before he comes back for primary plat to a very substantial amount. So, what you're asking for with specifications, you'd be looking for something substantial that you could say, okay, we're going to take this, we're going to attach it with and also with these specifications as well, the architectural standards, and send that up to the council.
And we have done that in other towns. We've done many PUDs in other towns, and typically, we would be involved, or actually, our attorneys would write the ordinance. It's substantial, the PUD ordinance, but typically, that comes somewhere between the approval of the town, after the approval by the town council and before platting, in that window, because we don't want to go through the time and expense of writing the PUD ordinance if we're not going to get the PUD zoning. So I know there was a question of that at the last meeting where we got the PUD approval, and I think Beth said, shouldn't we have an ordinance? And then Adam
It's actually Dave. So,
Attorney
yeah, we'd like at least a,
maybe an outline.
just specification, maximum number of lots, minimum lot width, length and size. So this is substantial technical details is really what we need, So, I mean, if a lot changes by a foot, as long as it meets the minimum, that's fine, So we're just looking for those basic, and I think you've already provided it for the most part. So what you've provided here tonight would fit that goal. You basically have a concept drawing. Now, if you come back and bring something completely different, well, then we're not within it, and we have to start over, so.
Okay.
Sidewalks on Calumet, okay.
Yeah, I noticed they didn't put it on the drawing, but we have agreed to that, continuing that sidewalk, which is currently on the west side of Calumet, all the way down to our south boundary, which would be the school.
Okay, just want to
Yep.
know that I'm a sidewalk person.
May I make one more comment again, because this is a PUD, so it's really different, and it will be coming to the council. Jack, our new subdivision control ordinance, which does not apply here, but it is a PUD, so anything goes. We require a wider sidewalk along major thoroughfares. It would be beneficial to the town if you could widen that sidewalk to 8 foot, since the path is right there, and stub it to the south. And that in the future, we could continue that path down the shoe corner and possibly to new developments. And it would give interconnectivity to the town bike system, the bike path system. So just on that west side of Calumet there.
Okay, we'll take a look at that.
Thank you.
Questions, comments from the board? All right. We'll just, I don't think we have to make, do we have to make a motion to defer? No.
I think we do need a motion maybe to defer again.
You want a motion to defer? Okay. If we can get a motion to defer to, he'll come to a study session. So do our December 2nd?
You want your November 18th, so I said?
November.
Oh, we can do November 18th, yeah.
Yeah,
We have a special session on November 18th.
You have a study session that day.
study
too.
session.
Oh, study session.
You have both. You're gonna, or no, I'm sorry, you have a study session that
But
day.
the study session is after the special?
The special meeting's the 9th.
No, we have two.
Plan Commission doesn't have a special meeting that night, just a study session.
Oh, okay, so yeah, but we'll defer this
that.
action until December 2nd, but he'll come to the study
Study
session.
on the
Yes.
18th.
Work out the details.
Yeah, so if I can get a motion to defer Greystone Unit 3 to December 2nd for action, but he'll come to the study session. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to defer to the December 2nd meeting.
We got a motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
Give it to Nancy.
Nancy, we're going to give that to you. We'll give the
Okay.
second to Nancy. Discussion. All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Burleson,
Yes.
Mr. Gill,
Yes.
Mr. Gillette,
Yes.
Ms. Little,
Yes.
Ms. Welland,
Yes.
and Mr. Kennedy.
Yes. Motion to defer. Jack, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Just for the board, there is another action we need to take regarding Preserve West. We made a motion to, favorable recommendation to the council in October? October. During that, with that motion, we did not include finding of facts, which we need to, to correct our records of finding. It would be appropriate for this board to make a motion to amend that recommendation to include the finding of facts. What I'll do is I will read the finding of facts. There's 12 items. Again, this is for the Preserve West, which we made a favorable recommendation to. This needs to go to the town council. Paul, does it come to you guys?
It does, yeah. So you're
So-
basically, it's a finding of facts specific to
You-
PUD again.
Right.
You have a and you have a copy of this.
And so I will read this so the board knows what we're approving in the finding of facts, or what the board action is. And again, this is for the Preserve West. And again, the motion was, recommendation was made. It goes to the town council. I should have asked for the motion to include the referencing of finding of facts. And so here are the 12 finding of facts. I will read them for you. 1, that the use proposed will not be detrimental to the property values of surrounding uses. Will not impair the, and I'm putting will, not impair the use of enjoyment of surrounding properties, but will have a beneficial effect which could not be achieved under any other non-PUD zoning districts. 2, that any amendment to this requirement of the zoning district is not warranted by the design and amenities incorporated in the development plan, which shall be substantial as compared to requirements for a development that is not within a PUD zoning district. 3, the land surrounding the proposed development either can be planned in coordination with the proposed development or will be incompatible in use. 4, that the proposed change in the plan unit development zoning district is in conformance with the general intent of the comprehensive master plan. 5, that the existing and proposed streets are suitable and adequate to carry anticipated traffic within the proposed district and within the vicinity of the proposed district. 6, that existing and proposed utility services are adequate for the proposed development. That each phase of the proposed development, as it is proposed to be complete, contains the required parking spaces, landscaping, the utility areas necessary for creating and sustaining a desirable and stable environment, is applicable. That the proposed plan unit development district and the proposed building, parking spaces, landscaping, and utility areas can be completely developed within 5 years of the establishment of the zoning district. That the proposal will preserve natural features such as stream, wetlands, woodlands, topography features, geological features, and scenic vistas. That the amount, location, and species of the perimeter landscaping will be sufficient to buffer adjoining properties from uses within the PUD if applicable. That the proposed PUD will not impose an undue burden on public services such as police and fire protection, school, park, and libraries. That the PUD will be a visibly pleasing design with a variety of building types and quality building materials. So, again, to amend, not to amend, Adam, is it just add to our motion that we previously, this is just correct the record of findings?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I think what you're doing is you're going to ask for a motion to simply correct or amend the findings of fact that were approved as part of the approval of the planned unit development plan for this development.
And so this will also be, if we move forward with Greystone, plan new development, these finding of facts, we could either reference them or we could go read through them again. But I will entertain a motion from the board, if they're so choose, to approve these finding of facts for the Preserve West. Was there a particular unit I need to reference?
No, it's all one, Preserve
Okay,
West.
So it's
Yep.
Preserve West, and it says accordingly, the PUD rezoning petition of blank. What's the entity?
Preserve SJ LLC.
Okay.
So
Preserve-
it's a favorable, unfavorable, or no recommendation regarding the finding of facts? Or no, I just make a motion to approve, Adam? Or is it favorable?
Mr. Chairman, this is not a recommendation
So
to
this
the
is
town
just a-
council.
yeah, we've
This
already
is
made
just simply the plan commission doing a bit of housekeeping to amend those findings that were associated with the prior approval.
Okay, thank you. So just to add to the motion that we made.
Want to make a motion to add the findings of facts for the Preserve West.
I have a motion by Bob. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Nancy. Discussion from the board? Hearing none. Craig, if I can get a roll call?
Okay, Mr. Burleson,
Yes.
Mr. Gill,
Yes.
Mr. Gillette,
Yes.
Ms. Little,
Yes.
Ms. Wolland,
Yes.
and Mr. Kennedy.
Yes. Motion to attach finding of facts to the motion has been approved.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, there is no public hearing. Anyone from the public? Hearing public, going once?
Just have one comment, I guess, if
Yes,
this will be the appropriate time to read that.
comment.
Received, general public comment received.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And this is interesting, it's signed by just a concerned St. John resident, so just so the board is aware that it's not from a specific individual that's been identified. But we did receive it, so it's probably appropriate to at least read it into the record.
Absolutely.
So it's dated October 28th, 2020. Dear Plan Commission board members, I would like to take this opportunity to respectfully express some concerns with the rapid development taking place in St. John through the eyes of residents. I know I speak for many when I say that we are concerned about the changes that are currently happening and what it means for the future of our town. It seems every parcel of land in St. John is being used to build homes with little creativity and thought for the use of space, such as an adventure park or park district, for our children to enjoy local shops, healthcare, offices, senior center, etc., or just to preserve nature and beauty of the land. Instead, we have developers that are building cookie-cutter, tightly packed homes with a quick and easy, high-return mentality. With the influx of people, many coming from Illinois, we are concerned about the impact this will have on our small town's community feel and way of life. We have always prided ourselves on this community feel and conservative values, and desperately want to avoid becoming another overcrowded Illinois suburb with the same problems they are currently experiencing. Lastly, St. John has always been a safe, peaceful, slower pace, and friendly atmosphere which will cease to exist with the many new homes being built, resulting in crowded stores and streets, often creating a less than desirous atmosphere. I could list many other obvious reasons, but we only need to look at Illinois to see what future problems lay ahead if we don't slow down the development, preserve some land in order to keep what's made St. John special for many years, and its small-town conservative values. My hope is that you consider the above-mentioned and carefully consider such consequences that will ultimately shape the future of St. John. I'm not leaving my name because I'm only one voice of many that often feel like our voices go unheard. Thank you for your time, and it just says sincerely concerned St. John resident.
Appreciate the comment. I think this plan commission did that with Greystone at least, or start moving in that direction. Awesome. Any other comments or discussion from the board? If not, motion to adjourn?
To move.
Got a motion second?
Second.
All right. All in favor, aye.